Welcome to Talk of the Bay. I'm Christine Barrington. While this winter's atmospheric rivers have brought much-needed rain to our region, along with them has also come devastation. In the wake of tragedy, it is local nonprofits who step forward to offer immediate assistance. Community Foundation of Santa Cruz County is a major force for good in our region and came into being to address urgent needs in the wake of major flooding decades ago, and today they are well poised to step forward and help. Already this year, they have delivered $1.3 million in grants in direct response to these emergencies, and my guest, Executive Director Susan True, is here with me to share with listeners what she's seeing on the ground and to help us understand what we can do to help. Susan, thank you so much for joining me here in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me. Great music before the interview began, too. Thank you.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of people that are really struggling, and you and your team have been assisting a lot of people. So are you managing to keep breathing?
Absolutely. You know, the real work on the ground is with our nonprofit partners who are providing case management services, food, toiletries, water, helping to staff the shelters with medical care, behavioral health care. And there's just so much that's unknown right now that I think it's a weary time because it's a lot of emergency without a lot of knowledge about what's going to happen next as the waters recede.
Right. And so, like you said, you work with so many community partners. And right now, at this time, is the situation in Pajaro like foremost on your minds, or is it really just putting out fires, or that's a bad analogy, but shoring up levees metaphorically and real all over the county?
That's a good metaphor. On Thursday, the day before the levee broke, I was meeting with several of our really key partners at Community Bridges and Community Action Board and Catholic Charities, and we were saying, okay, we're past the worst of the emergency, and now it's time for us to do some deeper work with families that have lost a lot in the January storms, and we haven't been able to help yet. We've been so in the emergency assistance that we haven't been able to help them figure out how to get their insurance claims filed, to make sure that they've got their FEMA forms filed, to see if there are unmet needs that we could help them solve in rebuilding or repairing. And we were all sort of like, okay, we're ready for this next phase. And then the next night, the levees broke. And so those folks are very much on my mind. An elderly woman with a tree that fell through her roof in Boulder Creek is still struggling, and yet all the helpers in our nonprofit care system are really taxed right now with helping in this new emergency in Pajaro. So we definitely feel the sense of there's more need than we can address all at once, and so we're just trying to take a very triaged approach to what needs to get addressed first.
Right. And so let's talk about some of the community partners that you are working with. There are so many. Who you said, Community Bridges is one of your key partners, and actually Ray Cancino was supposed to be with us here tonight. And there is so much going on. I wasn't even sure if we were going to be able to get you. You can just get this feeling that, there's this juggling and there's this urgency. Supervisor Yeho wanted to come on, but he was too busy. It just feels like people are having a hard time catching their breath. And so let's chat up these community partners to celebrate what they're doing and to help our listeners know who has our fellow citizens in need covered. There's a doorbell. Maybe that's Ray.
Might be Ray.
That would be cool. Okay.
I would start by chatting up Ray. Just he might be on his way in, but Thursday night I went to the fairground shelter, and he's there at 7:30 bringing the fairground staff coffees for a coffee break. You just think, he's been here all day. He's got two little ones. His staff have been around the clock addressing needs. So the folks at Community Bridges, and Community Bridges is a large nonprofit that includes family resource centers throughout the counties, and they have also been helping on fire recovery rebuild, and as part of our long-term recovery. They helped a great deal on COVID and the pandemic supports for families, and now they're doing this with the floods. So we're really grateful for them. That would be a key partner. I also think it's important to note that we have a really incredible health clinic system in Watsonville with Salud para la Gente. And their teams have been at the shelter day after day, assessing needs, understanding the medical situation of people. Imagine being a mom of a newborn and learning to nurse in this period of high stress, high anxiety, and having an experienced clinician really help you through that. And also assess if you need to be out of a shelter and that we need to provide motel room stays for some families that are in medical crisis. So, those people are really stabilizing families in this situation. But we also have partners at Community Action Board who have been interpreters of Indigenous languages at the shelters and throughout the streets of Watsonville where families are staying in cars. And those Indigenous language interpreters are key and essential for the Pajaro community to get help. We have, Second Harvest is on the scene right away with warm meals and food distribution. And then we've got lots of smaller grassroots groups that have just stepped up for kind of more of a mutual aid model, less in the formal system that will eventually, get access to FEMA and other things, but really just the grassroots good of this community. So Positive Discipline Community Resources has been coordinating services, organizing safe play areas. Campesina Boom Justice has been providing direct cash assistance to women farm workers. There's just a lot of really beautiful things that are sprouting up in these first 10 days of crisis.
Right. So some of our listeners might not understand how Community Foundation Santa Cruz County works. It's kind of like, well, they're a foundation and we can donate to them, but then they work with all these other nonprofits and we could just donate directly to them. Like, how does that ecosystem work?
Yeah, first, wherever people feel comfortable donating, donate. Like,
of course.
So certainly we just want to make sure that the big needs ahead of us are resourced. And so whatever way people are comfortable to do that. But we were, it's interesting because our origin story is that in 1982, the rains came down and people died and the Love Creek flooded and San Lorenzo River flooded. And, the community said, we can't wait for state and federal responses. We need to have one local place that can be a central organizing place for resources to get where they're needed. And that's how the Community Foundation Santa Cruz County started 40 years ago. And since that time, we've been through a lot, and especially these last 3 years. And I think what we've found is that, first of all, the direct service nonprofits, they need to be attending to the humans. They need to be caring for humans, responding to the crisis on the very, very front lines. We're not a direct service organization. And so that allows us to do the fundraising work. It allows us to coordinate where grants should go, where there are gaps in services, to be on the ground so that we can hear what's missing out there, what's unfunded, what's needed, what's a new emerging need, what's the long-term view that we have to have, because we know recovery is much more expensive than immediate response. And so we're able to do that, which really allows our partners to be free to assess those medical needs, to make sure people are getting cash assistance and it's not duplicated, to care for people in this crisis.
Well, thank you so much for explaining that. That's really, it's a powerful image to sort of imagine all these direct service nonprofits like really on the ground, on the front lines, doing the work and very, very caught up in doing that. And then I'm seeing Community Foundation kind of rising up like wind under their wings and saying like, we have funds, we can assist and we can worry about some of that.
That's right.
And so my understanding is that so far this season, you have distributed $1.3 million in direct grants. Is that correct?
Probably as of today, it's getting closer to 1.7. But yeah,
wow.
A lot of money is flowing out. And we're very, very careful about how it happens, but we're also not bureaucratic. And so I think that is the part about my colleague Kevin calls us a philanthropic first responder because before any of the hurdles of public assistance come in, before insurance pays out, it's really neighbors helping neighbors, and we can help each other quickly.
And that's so important, that fast response, because eventually there will be sort of like regional, state, and even federal monies coming in. But that often is a long and complicated process. And so the Community Foundation Santa Cruz County, Community Bridges, and these others are often the ones that just, it's like quick infusions of like nourishment.
It's
right?
true. I really feel that these local gifts to our disaster fund and directly to nonprofits are filling the gap in time of those resources you mentioned and in eligibility. Because the other thing that's important to know is not everyone affected by the January storms is going to be eligible for FEMA. You must be a U.S. citizen to be eligible. Although if you have a child that's a citizen, your household can be eligible. But many people will not be eligible just because of citizenship alone. And so timing, there's big delays, and then eligibility, and there's income eligibility limits too. So some people who are really having a hard time making it here in Santa Cruz County, the federal government doesn't see as poor, right? So just because of our high cost of living. So there's a lot of ways that community members can help people who fall through the cracks in both timing and eligibility.
Right. And that ability to meet the needs of our fellow citizens and to know, we read these devastating stories, particularly what's happening in Pajaro, you get this feeling of the tremendous suffering. There's people I understand who stayed in place and didn't evacuate because they understood they might not be let back in. They have medical needs. There's a lot of difficulty. So you read those stories and you become, upset. Your heart aches. And then there's a chance to do something. And a lot of people are showing up, say at the fairgrounds with blankets and goods. And that's all so wonderful. And I understand that it's saturated and they're saying, please don't bring any more goods. But this is a way people can go to Community Foundation, Santa Cruz County. You have a special disaster release fund with a nice big button on your site. And people can donate and know that Community Foundation is intimately informed about this community, all those partners you talk about, how they work, and you can, get those funds where they're needed.
That's right.
I think we might have Ray.
Wow,
Ray Cancino. Hello.
He's still wearing his high-vis vest from the fairgrounds, everyone. You can't see it, but I can.
Bright yellow.
Bright yellow. We see you. Welcome, Ray.
Ray, was this day 10 at the shelter in a row?
Yeah. Add another 18 hours to that time clock,
Yeah.
Oh, so great to see you.
Great to be here.
Yeah, take a breath.
Yeah.
Wow. So we were just talking about how, when people read these really devastating stories in the news about what's happening to our fellow citizens, particularly the people in Pajaro, being able to donate, to give to Community Foundation Santa Cruz County or Community Bridges we know then that we are helping those people. So Ray, I just want to give you the floor to have you describe what you are seeing. People can't see your face, but I'm seeing a whole world going through your face right now. Share with our listeners what you have to say.
Oh, man. You're going to make me cry again. So I've been connecting a lot about what this story means, and I even had conversations with my family about it. And, I guess the best way that I'm seeing is that, my family immigrated here. Every American is an immigrant in the background, and we're an immigrant nation. And the whole shelter is full of immigrants. And I'm seeing my family 50 years ago. The person on the cot, the senior that I'm seeing, the grandpa, the abuelo, was my abuelo. And for me, it's incredibly intense because we have a lot of aging farm workers in there. We have multiple generational families that are there. We have people that are at the very start of their American dream. And right now, I'm seeing their American dream end in their eyes, in their head, in their communications, in what it is they're seeing. They came here for opportunity, and right now, they're in a state of limbo. They're frustrated. They're angry. They're sad. They're crying. And, I've been trying to communicate this and having a very emotional time dealing with it because I think about why I do this work. And I do this work because when my parents came here, immigrated, even though we had family here, Spanish wasn't accessible at the DMV. I had to be the translator. I was parentified, so it might be good that they had an advocate built in their household, but most therapists would say that's not the best thing to have in your household.
Right.
And that made me want to change the world by providing not only language access, but opportunity for access and navigation services, which is why I'm in social work or in this world, in the space of nonprofit. is that we fill in the gap. We try to provide that navigation support to people. And I continue the work that I started back in 1988 with my parents at the DMV in Tracy, California, where they couldn't understand my dad's broken English, and there wasn't a Spanish person behind the desk. And I'm seeing that today. I'm seeing people with Mixteco and Zapotec that I don't know the language, and I can't communicate with them. So I know the frustration they have, and I'm glad to have partners like CAB, Community Action Board, Binacional Group, other folks that are providing language access and dignity in these spaces. But I'm also seeing my family, my struggles in the sense that they're in an overwhelming situation. Not only do they not know where they're going to live, how they're going to pay the rent, how they're going to work this season, they are struggling to comprehend what they're going to get into in the next following weeks, in the next months, in the next year.
Right.
And we know that government neglects our immigrants, neglects our folks that are recently here that don't go through basically a checklist, a protocol. And we know that people come here and immigrate to this great American dream. And we need to do more. I've been calling the governor to do more. I've been calling the state to do more. I've been calling the federal government to do more because it's not fair. These people are our residents. They're paying into the system. They're paying taxes. And we have a moral, legal, and ethical obligation to ensure that at least in disasters, that we're treating them as equals and that we're treating them with compassion and providing them language services, that we're being proactive in ensuring that they have resources to, like they say, get up off of the situation, the rut that they're in. I hate the bootstrap analogy because if you ever actually really look at that, you can't lift it.
Work.
You can't lift yourself up by the bootstrap.
Right.
But that's also where nonprofits step in, right? That's the whole point of philanthropy and nonprofits, is to be actually the helping hand behind that bootstrap analogy to lift people up.
We'll help you.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to just take a moment. In case you've just tuned in, you're listening to KSQD Santa Cruz on 90.7 FM. And I have in the studio with me here on Talk of the Bay, Susan True, the Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer of Community Foundation Santa Cruz County, and Ray Cancino, the Chief Executive Officer of Community Bridges. And these nonprofits have been riding these tsunamis of need this whole winter. And now this levee breach has just taken it to a whole new level. And we're not going to get into the politics, the behind-the-scenes stories. That's for another day. But when you say these people deserve better, my understanding was that actually the money was there, the work was put off. They weren't protected. I could be wrong. You're like, I've heard a lot of things, but that's for another day. So, Susan, while Ray was talking, you were nodding your head. Before he came in, you were talking about all these partners that you work with that are providing translation services. There is just so much support and care that all these people need. So I wanted to have you both speak to what people can do to help. Anything and everything you can say, and of course donating. Please share the information where people can donate. And but you first, Susan.
Well, one thing is we're trying to keep our website up to date each day on where best to donate material items. There's been a lot of desire to donate blankets and clothes, and then we don't actually have the operational wherewithal to sort them all and manage it. So Ray can speak more to that, but we're really encouraging people to give gift cards, and you could give gift cards to our office, to Community Bridges. That's an easy way for us to help people. The goods,
just hand them out.
The goods can be challenging, but if you do really want to give goods, then please check our Community Foundation website for what is to be given, what is needed, and where to send it, because it's going to keep changing over the next few weeks. So that's a dynamic situation. I don't know, Ray, if you have a different opinion.
And I want to tell our listeners, if you want to know these websites, I already have a blog post up for the show. You can go to ksqd.org, and the links are right there. So you don't need to write them down. Although we can say Community Foundation Santa Cruz County is cfccc.org.
SCC for Santa Cruz County.org.
Okay. And then communitybridges.org, correct? Right.
Yeah. And I'll just put a shout out to the Community Foundation of Monterey as well has also been really integral.
Yes. Right, because Pajaro is in Monterey County.
It is.
Right.
I mean, literally, people need to stop these magic boundaries that exist for political reasons and nothing else. Is that these are people, our neighbors, people that work in our stores in both counties, and they're just people impacted. So, I think that, yes, obviously a donation is probably best so we can relocate dollars and do what we need to spend and really respond to the emerging need now. But I understand people like to give things. They like to be connected to things and hand it to someone else. And so there is opportunities right now. There's a little transition of how donations and processing will occur. But I can tell you that there's 3 organizations right now on the ground doing that, which is the Lady of Nazareth in Watsonville is currently accepting donations, as well as RC Family Center, but they're in transition. So I just want to let people know that we'll let that communication come out as soon as that gets changed. And then obviously all in Monterey County, which is actually probably the place that we should be sending people at this point in time, which is in Monterey.
If they want to donate,
if they want goods.
Okay, I'll get that information for you and also get it up onto that blog page.
I will, and we really want to stress is that I know you want to donate something that's used and lightly used, and we want to be eco-friendly, but at this point in time, we're still in crisis. We don't have capacity to clean or to process items. We really are seeking like brand new underwear, brand new socks, material things that are new, because just because the capacity, there's only so many hands to do that aspect. I think that as we start developing in this process, there will be other opportunities to donate like furniture and larger items, but that's way down in the long-term recovery time, which is 5 to 6 months. So if you're gonna buy a new couch or something like that and you're really trying to just wait a little bit for us before we get to that point. But right now it's really about meeting the immediate need and impact.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, Susan, about meeting immediate needs? That's it? Okay. That's great. And I think that I want to just sort of seed the field for those who are listening that in the immediate occurrence of an emergency, everybody's like, what can we do? What can we do? And then the sun comes out and you go back to hiking your trails and riding your bike and you forget. And these people are going to be dealing with this reality for months, for a year, for a few years. And so we want to remember to stay in contact and to continue. So could you describe what you see as the coming, cycles of what these people are going to be going through? I want people to really get it in their hearts that we need to show up for these people.
I mean, I would just say that we still have people from CZU impacted in our community. We know a lot of them, and we know that they haven't been able to rebuild. And so I just want people to understand that natural disasters take a long time, and we should be constant and consistent of supporting those people's needs. And, I think a simple action that we didn't talk about that's non-monetary is really advocacy and education. So ensuring that you're calling our local electeds in terms of the state and federal folks, as well as Governor Newsom, and pushing around disaster relief and disaster assistance is critical for first in the farm worker community and also the Pajaro people impacted by failed infrastructure. It's someone's responsibility, right? And so we were able to do that for banks, so we should be able to do that for infrastructure projects like that. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to use our flex our Santa Cruz advocacy muscle, which I think we're really good at, and call the governor to make sure there's action at the legislative level. I would also just make sure that people are engaged and consistently being up to date about the needs, because Susan said, it's going to be dynamic. I mean, I already know I'm planning 3 weeks in advance essentially of what the next steps are. So right now we're getting from immediate assistance at the shelter sites to going into education, because we're thinking repopulation will happen soon. So tenant rights advocacy, making sure people have working vehicles and cars, and figuring out kind of the next steps for folks, and understanding that we need to provide different types of resources than we've done in the past, and building partnerships. So if people have interest in providing their auto body shop as being a place to give free diagnostics so people can make the determination of should this car be totaled Should we just take the salvage title and take the money from insurance? Or am I going to need additional resources? I think being able for families to make those family decisions is critical, and we need trusted partners that will hopefully give that opportunity for free. And I know there's a lot of good Samaritans in this community that have businesses like that can help us out to try to help support our community to get back on the road. Because if anyone's been following the used car market, what I would have bought for $1,000 is $7,000 on Craigslist right now. So it's an unknown thing that we need to think about and think things through about how to get people back to work, but also how do we make sure that people aren't lacking transportation in the process.
Great.
And then we have, obviously, next steps too. People can donate. They can donate to community bridges directly. And these are the things I need, right? Cleaning supplies, things that you're going to, and make sure that you're able to use that for things that are pesticide and things that are actually removing items like E. coli. So not everything cleans that kind of stuff, but everything that they're going to be cleaning is going to be considered toxic waste, and we need materials and things to be able to clean that up with. Nitrile gloves, so like really thick gloves, as well as dehumidifiers are a good thing, air movers, testers to make sure there's no water in the walls, that kind of thing.
Right.
Those are the things that we need. Heavy Husky contractor bags, those are also needed, and those could be dropped off at La Manzana in Watsonville at 18 Westlake.
Beautiful. So we need to wrap up. And what I'm going to recapitulate is that you can go to Community Foundation Santa Cruz County and get all the latest news. You're updating that file all the time. And community bridges, people can donate if you are a business owner, a mechanic, construction man or woman, and you've got equipment, they need it. So I will be inviting you back, other partners back, to stay on top of this as time goes on, so we can continue to show up for these community members who do so much to make our lives what they are. So thank you so much, Ray Cancino, Susan True. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on in. All right, this has been Talk of the Bay on KSQD Santa Cruz, KSQD 90.7 FM.